Hey guys, Mark here, and this is going to be a little video to show you how I set up my DX6i for use with my eSmart. Um, so there's really wasn't too many videos out there about this. So again, this is just how I set up my helicopters. I'm not guaranteeing it's the right way. It's definitely probably not the best way, but it works for me and it'll give you a general idea. Um, Hopefully by now you've already read through your manual. If you haven't, read through this first. This will answer pretty much all your questions. Okay, so I've broken it down pretty much to 13 different steps to setting up my helicopters with my DX6i. A lot of these steps will translate over to most collective pitch helicopters when I get into the setup. I'm not going to get overly detailed into it because it just takes really, really, really long to do so. So I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. Okay, starting off. First thing I want to point out to and make note of is this switch right here. It's got two parts to it. So one part at the top here senses when you're pressing the switch down, and the bottom part has a sensor that senses when you're turning it. Well, whatever you do, don't press on the bottom portion of this switch. Always press at the upper portion. Because if you press too hard down here, you're going to break it, and then you're going to have to send your transmitter out to get fixed, and well, that sucks. So, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you what I do, the process I go through. Very first thing I do is I go in and I verify that I am on the right type of setup. Go in, verify it's on helicopter. It is. Okay. Go back out. I go down to the model name. This is the second thing I do. I would enter in my model name. I'm just going to put E. Okay. Third thing I do, I go down and I change the swash type. This is a 6-channel helicopter, collective pitch. So you go to your swash type, put it to 120 degrees, go back out. Next thing, I got a couple other settings that I know I changed beforehand, or that I'm going to change later, so I just change them before I bind the transmitter to the new receiver. So the first thing I like to do is I go to my swash mix, and they all come on 60. I change them all back to 50. I'm not sure that you have to do this, but my helicopter seems to like it better. Alright, next thing I do, I go to my pitch curve, and I change my pitch curve for my normal flight mode. As it's set, it comes with, full negative pitch at low stick, and 25%, well, 50% negative pitch at quarter stick, and I don't want that. I want pretty much no pitch until I get to half stick. So I put it at 49 for position 2, and for low, position 1 there, I put it at 48. Okay, next thing I do, I go to my throttle curve, and I change the throttle curve for stunt mode. I want to make sure that at position 4, I want 90% throttle. Position 3, oh, wrong one. Position 3, I want 80%. Position 2, I want 90% again. And position 1, I want 100%. Oh. Not even adjusting anything. There we go. thing I do before I bind my transmitter. You can bind your transmitter to the receiver before you adjust this stuff. I just do it before. I go to my gyro and I set initially I set rate mode to 30%. And I set head holding mode to 70%. These have to be adjusted later, but again, this is just what I do initially when I'm initially setting up my helicopter. Okay, the next thing I do after this is I go ahead and bind my transmitter to my receiver, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, next step, I gotta bind my transmitter to my receiver. Now this is all set up as it would normally be. I've got my pitch servo on the end. This yellow wire, that's the remote wire for my gyro. The orange wire, that is for the gyro. The one right next to it, it's the elevator servo. This one, aileron servo. This one is my ESC. And this one is my BEC. A BEC provides power to your receiver. Some people will use a separate little battery pack for it. And a lot of people, though, your ESC, this wire, the ESC will include a BEC. But a lot of us feel it's best to go with a separate BEC. So anyways, you'll see all the slots are filled up. To bind the transmitter to this receiver, you got to put the bind plug in this slot where this is. So what I do is I go ahead and I take this yellow wire, the remote wire for my gyro, I take that out and I'll plug my BEC, into where the remote wire would go, and then put my bind plug in there and go ahead and bind like normal. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And one other thing I wanted to show you too, notice that my motor is unplugged from my ESC. It's going to stay unplugged for this whole process till the end. And just wanted to make sure you're going to know that. So, okay, I'll go ahead and put the bind plug in and show you that. Okay, the bind plug is in place. So next thing I'm going to do, my transmitter is off. Go ahead and plug the helicopter in. When you do, you'll see the ESC start blinking really fast. So what you're going to want to do, you take your transmitter, make sure all your switches are back and away from you. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold this switch right here, the trainer switch. You're going to hold it backwards, and you're going to hold it backwards this whole time until this light stops flashing completely or goes solid. So you're going to be holding that back, turn the transmitter on, and you're going to hear it start beeping a lot. Okay, still flashing. When this goes solid orange, then you can release the switch. See, now you release the switch, transmitter stops beeping, and what you're going to want to do, go ahead, unplug the helicopter, turn your transmitter off, unplug your bind plug, and if you were like me and you had to move some wires, move them back, and then go ahead and show you what's next.